Hello, and thanks for stopping by. So first off, let me premise. I'm in the process of tearing down my dorm for the end of the school year, so that's why the setup is now a little janky. It's a little weird, but ignore the lighting. Today I'm here to talk about Gene Simmons and his worst interview ever, by far. Like, it takes the cake. Let me premise by saying that I love Gene Simmons. I love Kiss. I've been a Kiss fan since I was at least 10 years old. And Gene Simmons is the man that inspired me to pick up a bass in the first place. The expression, never meet your hero, comes to mind. And with this interview, it's incredibly prevalent because, oh my god, this is one of the most painful things you will ever listen to. So without further ado, I give you the worst Gene Simmons interview to have ever taken place.
Gene Simmons, welcome to Fresh Air.
Thank you.
Let's start with the makeup. Did you like being covered up on stage? Did it make you feel any less vulnerable or any less like Gene Simmons or your other names, Gene Klein or Chaim Weitz, which was your birth name?
Close but no guitars. It's Chaim Witz.
Oh, thanks. Okay.
You said it. Well, the name came out through Gentile mouth, so it didn't quite have the flavor. It came out bland.
Well, it's not a Gentile mouth.
Ooh, maybe it's a discussion we can have.
Yeah, okay.
But let's not start something we're not going to finish.
Right.
And I mean, right off the bat, we're already getting some passive-aggressive undertones when Terry Gross, the interviewer, mispronounces Gene's birth name and refers to her as not having a Gentile mouth, which Gentile means of Jewish descent, being Jewish. What Gene doesn't know is that Terry Gross is of Jewish descent, so right off the bat, he's already making himself look like a fool, an arrogant one at that.
Did you pattern your makeup on comic book heroes?
My makeup came as a result of a lot of things, all things Americana. Godzilla, horror movie, science fiction, Black Bolt, which was an Inhumans Marvel comic book, and science fiction certainly. So it's comic books, all things sort of American pop culture. The rest of the guys in the band had different notions. Paul put on the red lips and the star over his eye as a kind of a exaggeration of what he thought a rock star was, because he always wanted to be a rock star. I was never interested in being a rock star. I always wanted to be Boris Karloff.
This is an interesting comment because Boris Karloff was the man who played the original Frankenstein in Frankenstein's Monster. A cool fact on its own, but to hear it come from Gene Simmons' mouth, especially in the context of, I never wanted to be a rock star, I wanted to be Boris Karloff, it's already really telling the kind of man he is. He doesn't give a fuck about being a musician. He doesn't give a fuck about being a rock star. He wanted to be an actor with spotlight in the Hollywood scene. Not that this is super telling of the rest of the interview, but it just gives you an idea, gives you a peek into the mind of Gene Simmons, of Chaim Witz.
And Ace, who's the spaceman in the group, has delusions of grandeur and perhaps gravity doesn't quite affect him in the same way, which is to say that he doesn't have good equilibrium, which is a big word, come to think of it, just like gymnasium. This is NPR, that's why we're using big words.
I mean, what a strange comment to make. What a strange egotistical remark just to make point of your vocabulary. Like, who gives a fuck that it's NPR? What does NPR have anything to do with your exquisite vocabulary? It just doesn't make sense. It just leaves a bad taste on your tongue. As will the rest of this interview, but just you wait, it gets worse. It gets so much worse.
How would you describe the pattern on your face?
A banker's pattern. When you look at it, it says, boy, that guy's got a lot of money. You know why I'm pulling your leg? Because I can't touch it from where I am.
Need I premise again? I am a Gene Simmons fan, but this is the most Gene Simmons thing ever. To go from talking about money and your inflated ego to immediately making a slightly sexual off remark that just makes the air that much more uncomfortable. I mean, what compels a person to say this? I mean, genuinely, what filters get blocked out that allow you to say something like that? To somebody on live air. On live air, no less. This is insane.
This is a serious kind of
Well, we'll get to that a little later.
Yeah, I'm not going to play
We'll get
the
to
serious
tally a
game
little
because
later.
this is all, after all, it means very little. I'm in a weird band. We've done very well. The American dream is alive and well.
For you? I'm $50,000 in debt because of this fucking place. What do you mean the American dream is alive and well? Piss off, dude. What the hell is that all about?
In terms of what it all means, it's sort of academic, really. It's about two guys from the intelligentsia, which is not the intelligence service, who sit around and sort of contemplate their navel. At the end of the day, it means nothing. At the end of the day, food tastes good, I like it or I don't like it, and kiss, yeah, I like him or I don't like him. That's a conversation, and it's never ending. But what you can't argue with is the American notion, which is of the people, for the people, by the people. They vote with money.
This is one aspect of Gene Simmons that I've been learning about recently that I've been a huge disliker of. He has this tendency to just kind of ramble on about nonsensical bullshit to try to further his point, to try to strengthen it. But what he's saying is a whole lot of nothing. And what I find really funny is that if you go to past interviews with him, he repeats a lot of the same things over and over again. It's like a book that he flips through, a quip log, and he just uses the same dialogue over and over. Like, the amount of times I've heard Gene Simmons say, "You are a powerful and attractive man," it comes off as disingenuous and distasteful. I mean, he comes off as somebody that is aware that he's intelligent, but wants to jack it off to everybody. And that just makes you look like a loser.
You and I, we sit here and we just talk and toss the ball around. That doesn't mean a lot.
Are you trying to say to me that all that matters to you is money?
I will contend, and you try to disprove it, that the most important thing as we know it on this planet and this plane is in fact money. You want me to prove it?
Go ahead.
The first thing you need besides air, which so far is free, and by the way, if you went scuba diving, you're paying for air.
I do get the point that he's trying to make here. Money is what will get you everything in this world, you know, especially nowadays. But it's also a really crappy point because divers knowingly and willingly pay for air because we as mammals cannot breathe underwater. And it's also a recreational sport, a recreational activity. So these people who go out and dive are willing to spend the extra money for air. This is not a matter of we have to, which, well, you do, but it's completely by choice. You don't have to go diving. That is completely your personal choice. So I get what he's trying to say. He's just not saying it very well, and he's not using good comparisons to make his point at all.
The other thing besides that is food. It's what we need to survive. I don't know what other tool I would use besides money to buy it. Although, as a woman, of course, you have the ability to sell your body, then get the money, and then with that get food. But ultimately, money is part of it.
I'm a dude, and I felt my fucking legs close when he said that.
You are weird.
Really? How do you get food?
Oh, well, not by selling my body, but...
But that's a choice you have that I don't. But getting to the money part, money is the single most important thing on the planet, including the notion that love gives you everything. It's a load of hogwash, because although I subscribe to the romantic notion of life...
Well, let's get to the chase. How much money do you have?
Gee, a lot more than NPR.
Oh, I know.
Completely unnecessary. That is a completely unnecessary comment. There is no reason for you to say something with that much snark to it. That makes you look like a dick. It's like he wants to look and sound like an asshole, which I know he has that whole album that he made literally titled Asshole, but still, it blows my fucking mind that you would want to come off this way.
You're very defensive on money, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm actually just trying to show you that there's a big world out there, and reading books is wonderful. I've certainly read, well, perhaps as many as you have, but there's a delusional kind of notion that runs rampant in...
Wait, can we just get something straight?
Of course.
I'm not here to prove that I'm smart, and I'm not here to prove that you're not smart or that you don't read books or can't make a lot of money.
This is not about you. You're being very defensive. Why are you doing that?
That's contagious.
Yeah.
Can we get back to your makeup? What do you use to paint your face, and do you ever break out from it?
Terry Gross has just been an absolute class act so far. She is handling this with the utmost class. It is so impressive that she's been this well collected throughout all of this, especially considering half the shit he said so far.
Now, clothes that you've worn on stage include fishnet stockings, spike, platform
That's
boots.
actually untrue.
No?
No. Better research needed. Fire your research person. No fishnet stockings. Never. Not in this band.
It's ironic coming from the dude that said straight to Terry's face that she was non-Gentile, having no clue that she had Jewish heritage. He was just assuming, so I smell a little bit of hypocrisy in the room. Anybody else? Anybody else smell a little bit of hypocrisy?
Oh, I'm sure I saw you.
We catch fish with fishnets.
I'm sure I saw you in them. But that's
No,
all right.
not-
I trust you. I trust you on that.
Don't ever do that. I'm a man.
Now, let's get to the studded cod piece. Do you have a sense
Oh,
of
yeah.
humor about that? I mean, does that seem
No.
funny to you, or you?
No, it holds in my manhood. Otherwise,
Yes, right.
it would be too much for you to take. You'd have to put the book down and confront life. The notion is that if you want to welcome me with open arms, I'm afraid you're also going to have to welcome me with open legs.
You could hear the fucking pin drop. I mean, what compels a person to say that? Beyond me. Beyond me. I could never imagine. But once again, Terry handles it with absolute class.
That's a really obnoxious thing to say.
No, it's not. Why should I say something behind your back that I can't tell you to your face?
I'm just going to come out of the gate and say, as somebody that was in 6th grade, that is like absolute 6th grade mentality logic right there. Any good reasoning human being would know that there are just some things you do not say. I get the whole memo of, well, you should never talk shit about somebody. You should always say your truthful intentions. But the line gets drawn when you're saying shit like this that's literally making people, including myself, uncomfortable. And I'm a fan of this guy. I love Gene Simmons. I mean, after this interview, I started to love him a lot less.
Wait, has it come to this? Is this the only way that you can talk to a woman, to do that shtick?
Let me ask you something. Why is it shtick when all women have ever wanted, ever since we've crawled out of caves, is why can't a man just tell me the truth and just speak to me plainly? So if I do that, you can't have it both ways.
So you really have no sense of humor about this, do you?
Oh, I'm laughing all the way. You know.
Oh, to the bank, right?
Well, of course. Don't I sound like a happy guy?
Not really, to be honest with you.
I was going to suggest you get outside of the musty place where you can count the dust particles falling around you and get out in the world and see what everybody else is doing.
Having sex with you?
And a slam dunk from Terry Gross.
Well, if you chose, but you'd have to stand in line.
Well, that's the thing. We might as well get to this since you keep bringing it up. Yeah, you've had 4,000...
I didn't, actually. You did.
You write in your book you've had 4,600 sexual liaisons over the years.
You're supposed to say so far.
So far.
Mind you, when he made this comment, he was... I don't know if he was married at the time, but I know he was still with, and is still with, Shannon Tweed. How Shannon Tweed is still with him and how she tolerates this, beyond me. God bless her soul. But, oh my God, to be married and to make a comment like that, how do you live with yourself? I mean, seriously.
Right.
To you, this will be asking the obvious, but why have you wanted so many encounters?
I can only spell it in 3 letters, M-A-N. When a woman, and look, I'm not here to say that I'm a scientist or pretend or portend to be anything else. Those are semantics, of course, but then neither you nor I are anti-semantic. The notion is plain. And I read a book called Myth of Monogamy, which actually sort of approached the subject and verbalized it. And I finally understood what it was, because every woman suspects that the man she's laying next to is not necessarily going to be, well, faithful is the word. And privately she tells her girlfriends, oh God, all men are dogs. You're correct. And I'm here to tell you that in my deluded perspective, perhaps, it's biological.
I already fucking know. His manager is sitting off to the side right now just because, oh my God, he started bringing the biological facts into it when talking about man and women, dude. That's how you know shit is gonna get scary.
The first, quote, man and women. If man was predisposed to be monogamous, and we all lived in caves at that point, there were one or two alpha males and the rest were females. Either way, if we were monogamous within one or two generations, we would all be cross-eyed and retarded.
For the sake of keeping this video short, I'm going to cut it here, but there is much more to this interview, and I will link it down below if you wish to watch the whole thing. It is genuinely painful, especially if you are a fan of Gene Simmons. It is horrible to watch and to listen to him talk like this. Pushing that aside, thank you all so much for watching. If you've stuck around to the very end, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know content has been sparse these days, but I've just been busier than usual. I'm hoping once summer starts, I'll be able to start some sort of routine, but I guess we'll see. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like, but no pressure. And yeah, that's about it. I hope to see you next time around, and see ya.